With the start of the European Championships, no doubt we'll all be watching dozens of games featuring the world's best players and teams fighting it out for Europe's ultimate international trophy. If you're watching from outside the UK, or you might be due to go away on your holidays, many games are subject to regional broadcasting rights, making it difficult to enjoy the games you want to watch if you're in a different country. Well, fear not, because Surfshark have got you covered. Surfshark VPN allows users to connect to servers in different countries, effectively bypassing these geo-restrictions and allowing you to watch football matches on different channels and streaming services from anywhere in the world. Surfshark VPN provides users with access to servers in numerous countries. This means that football fans can easily switch their virtual location to countries where matches are freely available or where broadcasting rights are less restricted. We all want to watch the games live. Well, thanks to Surfshark VPN, we can, no matter which country we're in. Whether you're on your holidays, whether you're watching from abroad, no matter where you are, with Surfshark VPN, you can watch the Euros. Surfshark VPN also encrypts your internet connection, ensuring that your online activities, including streaming matches during the Euros, remain private and secure. We all need that bit of security, and Surfshark gives you that. This is very useful if you're accessing streaming sites from public Wi-Fi networks where security risks may be higher. You might not even want to watch the Euros. You might want to break from the football and decide to watch the latest Netflix show. Baby Reindeer is one we've all been watching and debating on this channel. We've also been getting into true crime stories and true crime documentaries on Netflix. I love a true crime documentary on Netflix, and thanks to Surfshark VPN, no matter where I am in the world, I'm able to access Netflix and watch them. By connecting to optimized servers provided by Surfshark VPN, users may experience faster streaming speeds and reduced buffering, so you're not waiting ages to see if that last-minute winner actually did go in. There's nothing worse, is there, when you're watching a game and you think, oh, this is it, this is a crucial moment in the game, it's the last minute, or there's a penalty, is he going to score? And then your screen starts buffering. It is incredibly frustrating. Well, thanks to Surfshark VPN, you don't need to worry about that. Overall, Surfshark VPN offers football fans the flexibility, security, and accessibility they need to watch the Euros from anywhere in the world, making it the best choice for streaming content. England may end up disappointing us this summer, but Surfshark definitely won't. Use the code SAM24, Scotty and Motty, SAM24. There's a link in the description to this video and get an extra 4 months free. That's Scotty, I'm Motty, this is Scotty and Motty, and we're going to be getting into a bit of the old England chat, because I know, right, Scotty, despite what you say, and despite how you act, and despite what you do, you love England. You love Gareth Southgate's England. You love watching Gareth Southgate's England, and you think he's the greatest manager that's ever lived, and I won't have anything else said. No matter what you've been saying, you actually love him. Because there's a theory going around that despite the fact he's got to his 3rd semi-final in 6 years, he's just been a bit lucky and he's a bit beige and he's a bit fortunate that he just kept getting easy draws and he's got a load of good players that keep getting him out of jail.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, so we're going to be getting into it. I'm going to be asking that question. Is he lucky, or is he actually a good manager who deserves a bit of credit? Because I know your theory. Your theory is he's lucky.
How do you know my theory?
All right then, tell me your theory.
My theory is that if you're watching this, you should subscribe and press like before I continue.
Very good.
Thank
Nice.
you. My theory is that he's very lucky.
There you go, you say.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, isn't he?
He is.
I think it's harder to make that team play bad.
For the purposes of content, me and you sat here going, he's lucky for half an hour. It ain't going to be very good at entertaining viewing.
That was like an 80s game show, wasn't it?
He's always so lucky.
Strike
yeah,
it.
Yeah, remember that. Oh, yeah. He shall not be named. Let's not go there. So, Gareth Southgate, people say he's lucky. You're saying he's lucky, and you've got a very good point. But I'm just going to remind you of some things, right? Cast your mind back. How old are you?
40.
40. So do you remember 1994?
Yeah.
We didn't qualify for the World Cup, yeah? Graham Taylor had Shearer, Wright, Gazza, Ince, Adams, Pallister. Didn't qualify.
Yeah.
1996, it was in England, yeah? The Euros 96, great and all that. Okay, yeah? We drew with Switzerland. We beat Holland. We beat Scotland. We got past Spain on penalties. Very luckily, by the way, let me not forget they had a perfectly good goal disallowed, and we lost to Germany. That's considered the glorious era of Terry Venables, right? Everyone loves that tournament. Yep. 98, we went out to Argentina in the round of 16. Should have won that one, really. Okay, Beckham shouldn't have been sent off, but even so, still, we lost to Romania before we got to Argentina. Let's not forget that. 2000, we got knocked out of the group. We had the group of us, Germany, Romania and Portugal, and we finished third and went out.
Was that Philip Neville?
Philip Neville, yeah. 2002, we got knocked out by Brazil. Fairs, one of the greatest World
David
Cup sides.
Seaman fluffed it, man.
Yeah, one of the greatest World Cup sides of all time, if not the greatest World Cup side of all time. 2004 in the Euros, we went out in the quarters. Yeah. Sven-Göran Eriksson, some say it was a bit unlucky. I still say we should have beat France because he took Wayne Rooney off, replaced him with Emileski, who gave away a free kick that Zidane scored, and we were winning with about 10 minutes ago before Zidane scored. No, 5 minutes ago before Zidane scored 2. But that didn't matter. We still got through. We got knocked out in the quarterfinals. 2006, got knocked out in the quarterfinals. 2010, we got knocked out in the round of 16, getting battered by Germany. I was there in Bloemfontein. Yep. 2012, we got knocked out on penalties by Italy. I think in the quarterfinals, was it? I can't remember. Forgive me. 2008, under Steve McLaren, we didn't even qualify for the Euros. Yeah, we had a team. Yeah, if you remember that 2008 Champions League final, you had an English player in every single position by goalkeeper, and we didn't even qualify for the Euros. 2010, we were knocked out in the round of 16. 2012, I think it was the quarters on penalties. 2014, knocked out in the round of 16?
Yeah.
Was it
the group stage?
Group stage. I think it was group stages. Yeah. 2016, we got knocked out by Iceland. Then Southgate comes in.
Yeah.
World Cup semi-final. Euros final. World Cup quarter-final. Euros semi-final so far. I get he's had his luck. But when you look at him compared to other England managers who've been knocked out by the likes of Romania, by the likes of Iceland, who've not even qualified, does he not deserve any credit for consistently getting to the latter stages of competitions?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm the sort of person who doesn't, I'm not going to celebrate being the best failure out of them bunch of England managers. That's not anything to cry home about. It's not won anything, has it? You mean, you make the point there about, was it Sven-Göran Eriksson that got beat by one of the best Brazil sides of all time? Is that not a better achievement? Because I think that's probably the best team that's knocked an England team out of a competition.
Well, I think you make a good point, but I've got a counter argument to that.
Go ahead.
There was an easier route to that final that Germany took. All we had to do was beat Nigeria, and we didn't. Because Sven sort of played it safe. Got Denmark in the round of 16, then you've got Brazil. Again, it's caution. I know Southgate's cautious. My point is, Sven-Göran Eriksson had probably a route where he could have gone and got us to a final, but he didn't. And he never got to a semi-final, Sven-Göran Eriksson, despite having arguably the greatest England set of players available, where he was sticking Paul Scholes on left wing and not really managing Rooney as well as I think he could have done anyway. So I understand your point, though. The Brazil team and the result is, you can't really blame him for that. But I've yet to see an England manager who has done anything where you can go, wow. And I think, Gareth Southgate hasn't, but he's got the opportunity now to potentially get to his second successive Euros final. If he does that, does he get any credit? Or for you, has he got to win something to get credit?
He's got to win something to get credit, because then I'll take my hat off and say, okay, you've done it the ugly way, but nevertheless you've come home with the trophy, and you have to take your hat off for that. But I don't think there's any sort of method to his blandness at the moment.
To his blandness, I love that.
It just seems that it's the players that are getting him over the line because they have better abilities than their opponents. That's it. Rather than any sort of tactical nous. Don't forget, Switzerland were very close to beating England at the weekend.
Listen,
ridiculous. To even be in that position, with the greatest respect to Switzerland, they've got some really good players, but it shouldn't even be a contest. It really shouldn't. And then they had to go to penalties to take it. Southgate's not getting credit for the penalties. He's not getting any credit for that. Okay. So I just think that he's managed to get over the line through their ability rather than sort of the tactical. Now, so I think you could put anybody in that position and they'd be able to do it. Me and you would be able to do Gareth Southgate's job. I don't think it's that difficult at all. I don't.
There's a part, right, I'm not going to...
What's he done though, Jay? You tell me, what football are England playing? You talk about England performances. Let me tell you about the great England performances. 5-1 against Germany.
Yeah.
The 4-1 against Holland.
Yeah, in Euro 96.
In Euro 96. They're probably the two greatest ones. And maybe the Argentina victory when David Beckham redeemed himself. But I mean, even then. But through Gareth Southgate's success getting to the latter stages of tournaments, what game stands out and go you know what? That England team's phenomenal. The way they're moving the ball around, the tactics he's playing. I mean, we're in a day and age of modern football now where it's all about, the minuscule details and like pressing and inverted fullbacks and stuff. Everyone's just, what are they doing? Like, there's no tactics there at all. Go out and don't go forward too quickly. Try and get the ball to Harry Kane.
Yeah, listen, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm just trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I get your point. Let's get in some of the comments and I'll come back to you on a couple of points. Santa Not says Forza Italia of the World Cup. Jace Parker says evening Moy, evening Scotty, Ale Le Blues. Heaven Soul says what irks me, I like that word, irks, is that they clearly are able to play attacking and dynamic football, but choose not to. Shaw is a must start next game. Glenn F says we are getting knocked out by Holland, who aren't even that good. Miss Man United says, nah, he's still a donut. She's not even an England fan, so don't worry about her opinion on it. Heaven Soul says the argument is that he should do even better than that. Past managers is irrelevant. Wolfie Smith says Southgate is so lucky, he should buy a lotto ticket. Oh wait, he doesn't need to. Getting paid $5 million a year is like winning the lotto. Glenn F agrees with you. Heaven Soul says Southgate is the Keir Starmer of football. Beige safe, goes with whatever the thought of the day is. Case in point, Mainoo playing for England. That's the most outrageous comment I've ever heard in my life. Mainoo should walk in England team because I think he's been our best midfielder. Glenn F says I have a feeling Veg the horse will be the player who gets the goal that puts the end to this Euros. Could be. He is lucky, lads. Thoughts on rival fans and newspapers still jumping on Mainoo? They're just talking rubbish. You can see his stats and his performances speak for themselves in this Euros, and I think he's deserved to get into the squad. Let's not forget, I spoke to Henry Winter on Paddock the other day, yesterday. Sorry, Mainoo wasn't Gareth Southgate's first choice for that midfield. It wasn't even his second choice. His first choice was Trent Alexander-Arnold. His second choice was Conor Gallagher. He picked both those players ahead of him. Mainoo forced his way into the team with his performances. So let's not discredit the kid. He's forced that issue. He hasn't been given it because he plays for United or because Gareth Southgate is one of his favourites. If anything, he's ignored him.
Do you think, and I like the narrative that Kobbie Mainoo has forced his way into that England team, is there not the argument that the inability of Trent Alexander-Arnold in that position or Conor Gallagher in that position has forced a hand? Do you know what I mean? It's as much him being great as it is him making mistakes that them two can't play there.
No, because if he'd have played like they had, he wouldn't have kept his place.
Yeah.
So he's forced the issue because he's forced it. Yeah. He's come into that team. He's the least experienced, and people say, "Oh, Trent Alexander-Arnold hasn't played in midfield," but he still has played in midfield, and he's still got a lot more caps than Kobbie Mainoo, and he's 4 years older than him, whatever he is. Conor Gallagher, that's his position. He plays in midfield. Both those players have had an opportunity and flopped. Kobbie Mainoo's come in and shone. Now he could have come in and done what they done, and he wouldn't have kept his place. Yeah. But he hasn't. He's risen above that level. Even to the point where he got these little cameos. And let's not forget, it goes back further than that. He got brought on against Brazil, didn't give the ball away once in 10 minutes. He gets a start against Belgium, player of the match in his full England debut. How often did you see that? Then he gets another opportunity in the Euros where he's brought on for 10 minutes at the end of the Serbia game, 5 minutes of the Serbia game. Doesn't really get much chance, doesn't do anything wrong. Has to wait again. Denmark game, again, doesn't put a foot wrong. And then all of a sudden, when he is given a little bit more, I think was it against Slovenia, I'm getting all mixed up. He shows what he's capable of. So I think that you can say, well, it's as much them letting themselves down as him, but he's not. They have.
Yeah.
He's put in the performances that, despite them being a lot more experienced, they weren't capable.
But shouldn't he identify that in the first place? Is the point I'm trying to make? Is that, you know, he should know from the offset that Kobbie Mainoo is a better centre midfielder.
I'd have put Kobbie Mainoo in straight from the start myself, but
that's what I mean. So it's not. Like he should know that it's not his forcing his hand. For me, it feels more like it's Gareth Southgate going like, "Oh well, I've made a boo-boo there," and Kobbie Mainoo's come in and done what we all know that Kobbie Mainoo's.
I would have started him. I would have started him straight away. I wouldn't have gone with Trent Alexander-Arnold. One thing I will say though is a lot of people agree with Gareth Southgate before the event. A lot like Wayne Rooney and Gary Neville and all these people, I saw all these pundits going on about it, going, oh yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, before the Euros, when they all thought he's going to give him a go there. They were all agreeing with it. They all saw the logic in it. They all thought it could work. When anyone who's watched Stretford Paddock or this channel or follows me on socials know I am kind of obsessed with Kobbie Mainoo, and I was like, you're thick as pig shit if you can't see what I can see. That FA Cup final performance alone meant he should start for England when he absolutely dominated a midfield that featured Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne. And he was the one that was player of the match. And he was the one that got the goal that turned out to be the winning goal. And you're saying I'm going to start Trent Alexander-Arnold out of position or Conor Gallagher. No, that is stupid. I'm not giving Gareth Southgate credit for that. I'm giving Kobbie Mainoo credit because he forced the issue, even though Gareth Southgate obviously thought he was third choice.
Do you think that Gareth Southgate's persistence with players that aren't performing well will be his undoing in this tournament? If you look at Holland again, I think is a game that England should definitely win, because if anything, they've got a talented bunch, but they're as erratic as England are. You're not too sure what one you're going to get on. It's Forrest Gump syndrome with the Dutch. But do you think that because they'll persevere with Harry Kane won't get dropped? But he's not performed this whole tournament. Phil Foden, and this made me laugh at the weekend whenever Gary Lineker saying Phil Foden's the best number 10 in the world, and they were proper gushing. I'm like, have you actually watched the same game that I've been watching?
Right, here's one thing you need to remember about these pundits, and I've seen this firsthand, especially with England, right? They don't want to slag off certain players because they want access to those players. They don't want to lay into some of these players because they want these players on their podcast or on their, being given an interview. And I know that. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it where I've seen pundits say one thing about one player in private and then say a different thing on the telly, because they don't want to criticise England players, because they want them to come on and have a chat with him, or they want them to come and do a podcast with him, and they want access to them. So they won't say what they're really thinking. So when Gary Lineker says Phil Foden, if you're talking about his club form, there's a conversation to be had. Phil Foden for Manchester City is phenomenal. He just is. And I've seen him destroy Man United many a time. So I'm not going to argue with you on that front, even though it pains me to say it. For England, he's had, 38 games, whatever it is, and he's been bang averaging about 30 odd of them. I don't think he's been terrible. I think that's harsh. But for a player of his quality, I expect him to be more than okay. Yeah. He should be smashing it up, man. He's Phil Foden, and he isn't. So I think Gary Lineker is talking nonsense, and I think that he.
Where's your integrity with that, though? I mean, you're thinking about your own brand or your own podcast, and ultimately your own back pocket, when you're not going to be integral to your beliefs and what you really think about a player, because you want them to.
That's what I think.
I agree with that. I've heard stories as well.
Yeah,
and,
I just think it's one of them where, if Phil Foden was to spit his dummy out, or the rest of the England squad was to start spitting a dummy out with people like Gary Lineker, which we've seen a little bit of, he won't get that access. He won't get. I think, and he's not alone as well. I think there's a
grow
few
a backbone, man. You know, this whole shit when it was going off about, they've been too critical of Gareth Southgate and the England team, and you had all this nauseating PR spin about the videos with the talking heads about, they're being a little bit mean. We didn't really like what Gary Lineker was saying about us. It's like, do you talking on the pitch? You know what I mean? And I found, but as soon as they're getting applauded for beating, who did they beat the weekend? Switzerland. When they beat Switzerland, they're quite happy to take when they're being celebrated again. You can't have that. You can't have the rough.
Did you see that clip of Southgate when he was a pundit laying into the England team?
No,
when he was on ITV and he was doing the commentary and he was laying into him, and he wasn't being kind. He was literally saying it was ridiculing him. Hendrick says tactical genius. JU on the Magic Dust again. I'm not saying he's a tactical genius. I've literally never said Gareth Southgate is a tactical genius. I'm asking the question, does he deserve credit for getting to 3 semi-finals in 6 years or not? That's the question. I will say this about Gareth Southgate, right? And I think he has been fortunate in his draws. There's no denying it. Panama, Tunisia, Belgium in the World Cup that time. He loses to Belgium. He beats Panama and Tunisia. He then faces Colombia. without James Rodriguez, let's not forget, and he gets through on penalties. He's then got a very beatable Swedish team in the quarterfinals. He then faces Croatia in the semi-finals, takes the lead, and yet gets beat by Croatia. You go into the next competition, it's the Euros there. I think we beat Croatia, drew with Scotland, and the other game escapes me. Get through the group anyway. You beat a German team that wasn't great. I'm not trying to dismiss it. They just weren't. I think was it Ukraine and Denmark as well that you beat. The Italy game, they were there for the taking, no offence.
No, they were. No,
again, you take the lead. That's not a vintage Italy team by any stretch of the imagination. But they do what they have to do, and they get past Gareth Southgate's England. You go to the recent World Cup, and this is the one where I think he really let himself down. You get to that quarter-final. Marcus Rashford is your joint top scorer. You give him 4 minutes against France. Raheem Sterling, who's not trained all week because his house got burgled and he had to fly back to England, you give him half an hour. Bukayo Saka, who's tearing the French defence apart, you take off. Terrible tactics, just awful. I think the only way Southgate can sort of truly silence critics, to get to the point where you have to give him credit and you have to go, no matter what your position, you go, okay, he's delivered, is to win it. Because I think if you win that trophy, regardless of how you play, people can't go, because I'm not being funny, right? If you remember this World Cup in 2010, that Spain team was fantastic, but the football weren't in that competition. Greece in 2004 was woeful, but they won it. Yep. If you win it, you go, fair play, he's delivered the trophy. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And that's the only way you're truly going to silence the critics, because I think if you go out now against the Holland, people aren't going to go, do you know what though? My man got past Switzerland. Got to give him credit. Do you know what? He got a draw against Denmark, and he got a draw against Slovenia, and he beat Serbia. No one's.
It's the same. Well, it's groundhog tournament, isn't it? Because it's the same thing as previous. Do you know what I mean? They're beating what he's supposed to beat, and then not getting.
So can I ask you this then?
Yeah.
Do you feel like these draws, these favourable draws, and this pool of players is being wasted on Gareth Southgate?
I think so, and I think that the type of football that they're used to playing within their club is at a huge contrast to what they're playing or being told to play for England. And I think that's detrimental and partly down to the performances. It feels like, whether it's from Southgate or whether the players feel it from the pressures of the media, that they'd rather try not to get beat than go for the win. It's so cautious. Do you know what I mean? It's like, just go for it, man. Let the lads play football. If you look at Spain as an example, that Spain team, great players, but they're not like, they're not the Spain of old. They've got 2 teenagers in that team. And
I think Spain are the only team that have turned up in this competition.
Yeah, and they're playing brilliant sort of free-flowing football, and it's entertaining to watch, and they look like they're enjoying themselves. But it just feels like there's a whole world on the shoulders of all the England players and Gareth Southgate whenever they go out to perform. And I don't know if that comes from people like me and you putting the pressure on, or it's Gareth Southgate saying,
don't tournament, though, and he should be used to it by now. Do you know what I mean? Like, really. Do you know what? It's a shame because me and you covered the 2018 World Cup together. And okay, the run was easy, and okay, he should have, probably done better against Croatia. But it was a buzz that summer. Seeing him get to the World Cup semis, we're sort of travelling around. You see how everyone was enjoying it. It felt like it was a bit of exciting.
It doesn't feel the same now.
No, it felt like exciting, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I actually give Gareth Southgate a bit of credit because I thought like he seemed to get certain things right. Because he's obviously limited as a manager. He just is. But he kind of stuck to his guns with Dele Alli and Jesse Lingard in midfield, and the way he set up his defence as well, with a back 3 of Harry Maguire, John Stones and Kyle Walker, and then having Trippier and Ashley Young, and I know that's 5, but you get my point, out of possession. And you think, okay, look, as someone who's watched England since, the 1990, it was good to see us get to a semi-final the way the country was having it.
Yeah.
And he seemed to get the press on board. He seemed to unite everyone within that camp. Everyone seems to be sort of getting on. You remember seeing Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard talking about how they were mates when they were at West Ham, and when they went away with England, because one played for Chelsea, one played for United, they wouldn't even talk to each other barely. And it obviously didn't work having a team that doesn't get on, where he brought everyone together, and you think, okay, yeah, I can see what he's doing here. And I thought like that kind of was good, for want of a better word. It was all right. You go to the fast forward to the Euros in England. It felt all right because it was getting to the finals. Quite a lot of sort of celebrations of the fact people were loving the ride and all that, and beating Germany was a big one and stuff like that.
Just after the pandemic.
Yeah,
as well,
and it felt like that's another positive. And I think his sort of stock was riding high after that. And people sort of after that final loss of penalties weren't really critical of Gareth Southgate. There was a bit of a backlash to some of the players, and then there was like a post backlash to people that were giving the players grief. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're out of order and all that. The last World Cup, though, and I've not even gone into the Nations League, by the way, I realise that. the last World Cup felt like he'd underperformed massively.
Yeah.
That France game was terrible.
It felt like the Euros against Italy was his peak as far as I'm concerned.
I can't get that.
And it's been downhill since there. And I don't think that I just can't see them beating either a France or a Spain in the final.
My pick is, I think it was you was chatting to.
I said Spain. I think Spain. Yeah. I said Spain. You said France, didn't you, for the tournament? But
no. I didn't say France for the tournament. Did I not? Did I?
You said France or Portugal.
Sorry.
But Gareth Southgate, and like I said, he did great groundwork when he first took over, because the whole thing about England, it was quite spiky, and there was a lot of like fractures within and blah blah blah, and not many of the fans weren't behind it from a club basis. You didn't really see like United, representing him or enjoying it. He's a steward at best. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's guiding people towards it. He's not a football manager. He's not a major tactician. I've not seen a substitution that I've gone, I understand that. I've not seen a selected 11.
He's in his 4th tournament.
Well, that's 4 tournaments. I'm not seeing that. I've not seen any sort of, innovative way of beating a team and gone, there's nothing there. The fact that he was actually linked with the Manchester United job is just bonkers. The only way I could see that being a thing or any rationale behind it is because Manchester United, behind the scenes have been referenced as being quite a volatile sort of, quite a changing room. So you could see it for that sense if Ten Hag was to go, but not for any sort of to lead you on. I think he peaked against Italy at Wembley, and now I should have gone after the World Cup if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I kind of agree, to be honest with you. I think obviously he's still in his competition. He's got 2 games where he can go down in history. He can become the first England manager to win the Euros, and he'll be revered for it. Let's have it right. He will. Regardless, I don't think people remember all the dross football if you lift a trophy, especially England fans. A lot of the England fans who are diehard England fans tend to, not exclusively, but tend to come from clubs who don't win much.
No.
So it's like they focus on England, and they'll be absolutely buzzing if.
But how did England play in 1966?
Well,
do you know, you might know, but I mean, the
only reason I know is because I know they were getting stick after the first couple of games, weren't they?
And I know the stuff about Jimmy Greaves and stuff.
You know what I mean, and they had to change it up.
But nobody looks back and says, "Oh well, England in that 66."
Yeah, in that group stage was shocking.
Yeah, exactly.
No, does that. Juan Martinez says, "Easiest group I'm running. Southgate had horrible player and team selections and negative tactics. Even if they win, it's in spite of him. #Gareth out." Also,
make sure you're subscribing and liking if you haven't already.
Hendrik says, "We're just kidding. No, he doesn't deserve any credit. Having said that, England going to win the tournament, and this comment going to hunt me for the rest of the month. I don't think he was." Man United says, "I think England are in trouble Wednesday. If Gakpo is on form, Depay hasn't been great, and obviously Wu will come on and get a goal, so I can't wait." Mick Holohan says, Terence Tibbs says Southgate is a caveman. The weird thing about Southgate, right, is you mentioning there about that sort of unity and sticking to his guns, and sometimes I think that can work, like sticking to your guns with certain players. I think you can't pick, right, successful national teams have a core of players that play for them no matter what, because you can't just keep changing your 11 based on form, because it wrecks your team. Like, you have to have 3 or 4 players that are kind of like staples of that team. Okay. Every successal international team has always done
within
that.
The tournament, you mean?
Going into the tournament.
You can't start shopping around.
It's like, look, these are my 4 or 5.
Here's my scaffolding.
It's like, these are my 4 or 5 guys. I'm not gonna, just because another centre back is having a great run at 10 games for his club, I'm not gonna drop the centre back that I always pick. It tends to be like that in successful international teams, where they have a core, and you'll get 1 or 2 players who you might go, well, he's bang on form, I'm bringing him in. Oh, he's been sort of edging towards the team, now he's ready, I'll do that. But by and large, you stick with it. Like, I know we're going back in years, it was the only time England won a trophy. Like with 66, he had a core team, and I think he swapped it a little bit. I think Terry Payne got dropped, and then you bring in someone like I can't remember, I wasn't there, but Jimmy Greaves gets injured. You bring in, I think it was Jeff Hurst and Roger Hunt became your 2 strikers. He makes a few little changes, he makes a few tweaks, whatever, but he doesn't change his entire 11. Or leading up to the tournament, you don't keep changing it every week, because it's like, well, he's playing better. So I quite respected the fact that Southgate went, Pickford's my guy. So when Ramsdale had a few, a purple patch for about 2 months when everyone was loving him, no, Pickford's my guy. When Nick Pope was the guy, no, Pickford's my guy. Maguire was his guy. When people were slagging off Harry Maguire, and he was like, nah, Maguire's my man. Maguire and Stones is my centre-back.
England was his refuge, wasn't it, in many ways?
And I thought, I kind of respect that. And I think, you know what? And I thought there was a lot of nonsense going on about Maguire as well. Like in the last Euros when he wasn't fully fit to start, Tyrone Mings started. And people were saying Tyrone Mings should play the entire tournament, which is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life, because I don't care how much you hate Harry Maguire, but if you think Tyrone Mings is a better defender, I've got some magic beans to sell you. Harry Maguire comes back in, he's in the team in the tournament, he's player of the match against Germany, and he scores his penalty in the final. Absolutely smashed his penalty, by the way, you know.
Great penalty.
Sticking with a core makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I get that.
Yeah.
I think
but at some point you've got to be able to...
But you've got fringe, but you've got like to change some of it. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think you change all of it.
Are you? Yeah, but what I'm saying, are you talking about changing it going into a tournament, or actually making the changes within the tournament?
No, I mean, that's what I respect about Southgate, is he had a core, He had a core of group of players that he stuck with, but he's kind of changed that a little bit going into this.
Well, this was his last roll of the dice, really.
Yeah, because like Maguire,
and it was a lot of it on form. If you look at Maguire, well, I thought Maguire was a decent defender last night. Rashford was dropped.
Rashford was never a true starter for Southgate. People forget that. Every tournament he's had, Rashford hasn't started.
No.
But he was one of his guys. Maguire was one of his guys, 100%. Even though he wouldn't have been fully fit, I think at the beginning of the tournament, the rumours were that he'd been ready midway through the groups. Lewis Dunk wasn't even fully fit at the beginning of the tournament. Luke Shaw wasn't fit at the beginning of the tournament. I know he's a left back rather than a centre back. They went. So he's dropped Maguire. Apparently, from what I heard, that didn't go down well with a lot of players as well, because Maguire's a popular figure in the camp, and he was told he was going, which also upset a lot of people the way it was handled, because, you know, it's not the nicest thing for him to have to go through. So he's changed it a little bit there. Also, another good thing that Gareth Southgate had going for him, I thought anyway, was his relationship with the press. He had a good, positive relationship with the press. A lot of England managers have had meltdowns with the press. Capello fell out of the press to the point where he wouldn't even do press conferences. Graham Taylor had a terrible relationship with the press. Venables is probably the one who's handled them the best out of anyone I can remember. McLaren didn't get on with the press, was just a shambles from start to finish. Even Sven had a bit of a prickly relationship with the press. People forget that.
Towards the end,
there was times when he didn't even want to give interviews, and he told his players not to give post-match interviews and all this nonsense. But Southgate came in and he kind of got the press on board. Do you remember when his team was leaked, when he had it written down?
Yeah.
And he didn't kick off about that. He went, look, I know you guys have got a job to do. I get it. And I'm sorry to see some of you getting grief on social media. I've had grief on social media. It's not nice. And that got everyone on board, and they thought, okay, this guy's kind of, you know, got us all in this together, which is quite like... Well, now that seems to have gone out the window to the point where he's kicking off about getting criticised, which is a bit odd for a manager who's been England manager for, what, 7-8 years?
Yeah, he should be able to... Well, that's because he's had such an easy ride for 7 or 8 years. Do you know what I mean? He's built that foundation of, all right, the press like me no matter what, and he puts out a couple of dud performances, and then, quietly, rightly so, there's only so long you can not deliver before you start getting criticism. He's had a fairer crack of the whip than other managers, to be fair, who have been better managers than him, if not has got to as far to the later stages. My problem is, looking within the tournament, you had the opportunity, you were already through the group, you had that third game in the group stage. Yeah. I would have started playing around then, tinkering and saying, right, okay, if this is my team A, what is my alternative way of playing? And this is the time to sort of explore that and see how they sort of adjust. Because I'm going to need to know when I get to the later stages of the tournament if I'm up against a low blocking team or a team that likes to play open play, and I've got two options to get. He didn't do that. No. He's persisted with Phil Foden. Phil Foden didn't work out on the left. He's not worked in the middle. Yeah. Despite what the sort of people in the press are fawning over him, because it wasn't a great performance. He's persevering with Harry Kane. Mm-hmm. Harry Kane's had a terrible tournament. I think outside of the goals he's scored, and yes, he's a striker, I think he's holding England back a hell of a lot regarding this sort of...
I don't think Bellingham, Foden and Kane works.
No, and this is what I was trying to get to, is that...
It doesn't...
Because Bellingham wants to go too far forward. Kane's dropping too far back. Foden's running around like a kid on the paper ground. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You've got the three of them occupying a space the size of this table.
Yeah.
Like, it's mental.
It doesn't work, and they don't know when to move away from each other. No. If you compare that to how Spain play, do you know what I mean? Everyone sort of knows that if someone's moving over there, the other one goes into his position. They're well aware, they're more sort of, they can transition around the pitch wherever the ball is. England aren't like that, and a lot of it stems from Harry Kane.
Yeah, no,
and he won't drop him. That's the issue.
I agree.
But if it was me and I'm Gareth Southgate, Holland will have an idea about how England are going to set up against them. Yeah. Because it's been obvious all the way through it. He's got an arsenal of teams there, an arsenal of players there in his team, where he could go out and absolutely blow Netherlands away by saying, right, okay, now lads, what do you call it, rope-a-dope. You know, so they basically took a lot of punches in the early rounds, and then they go like, right, handbrakes off, go off and show them what you can do. Because Koeman and Holland will go like, what the fuck's this? This isn't the England team that I've seen. You know, he won't do that though.
No, I think the one positive thing about it, I think this is Southgate's last tournament.
Oh, easy.
And I think there's a generation of players coming through. You look at Kobbie Mainoo, you look at Cole Palmer, that Adam Wharton, I think, from what I gather from what I've seen of him at Crystal Palace and what Palace fans are saying about him, could be another one who come into this side and do bits. And I think a new manager coming in who doesn't feel like he owes Foden and Kane and some of these other players anything, and has got fresh ideas and he's willing to give some of these younger players a chance, could do bits. I think that you could. We keep saying this every year with England. You look at the players that England have got, you compare them to other countries, and I'm not saying we've always got the best teams, I don't always think we have, but we've always got a team that you think is up there. You've always got a team that you think can challenge. I don't think I've ever remembered in my lifetime looking at the England sort of first choice 11 and going, it stinks. Do you know what I mean? You've always had good players for England, and yet we've never really done it where you go, amazing.
But there isn't, on the world stage now, there isn't that one or two teams that are favourites for any tournaments anymore. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you go into a tournament, it was always Brazil when we were growing up. Do you know, Brazil have got such a selection. The Argentina team is aging, do you know what I mean? Brazil just got knocked out of the Copa America. Spain are doing pretty well in terms of bringing young players through. They're not the finished product. France, I mean, Didier Deschamps is like, you know, the French Gareth Southgate. You know, between the two, if that's a final, I'm recording that because I have insomnia and I'll just watch that every time I can't kip.
France have been poor.
To watch Portugal aren't world beaters.
No, it's not just that. Roberto Martinez is just a terrible
one
manager,
for you.
Terrible manager.
Could Harry Kane prove to be Gareth Southgate's Ronaldo? His persistence with him and and how much he's stinking out the place. Could that be his downfall?
It could be. It could be. I think if we've got any chance, and I say we, because I do want England to win against Holland, and he's not getting any joy. Harry Kane, because I think Virgil van Dijk will fancy his chances against him. I think he'll think, I can handle this guy. Do you know what I mean? Then he has to change it. And for me, I would mix it up and I would take Harry Kane off. Even if you did something like you went, you could do a straight swap and take Harry Kane off and bring on Ivan Toney, or you could go with someone like Bellingham as your false nine. Yeah, you could do something completely different.
That's what I'd love to see that. I mean, it never happened. No, I don't think anybody would complain if we went out and performed and got beat. Right? I don't think anybody would go like, that's happened. But if they go out and a whimper, he's going to lose. He's going to leave anyway. But that's unforgivable, given the talent for me.
Listen,
subscribe,
it's been a good debate. And deep down, anyone who watches anyone who watched my thoughts on Gareth Southgate being linked with the United job will know my thoughts on him. Yeah. Whether I think he's a tactical genius or not, but he's got 2 games to etch his name into history. He could be the most successful England manager in 60 years.
Yes, because there've been a load of shit before him.
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, he almost is anyway, just from his record, since Alf Ramsey. I think his record's the best record, isn't it? He's certainly been lucky, but he's a lucky manager who's in the semi-final of the Euros, and he's got a game against the Holland team who are beatable, There's a team there that can be beaten, and I don't know. I think a better manager, you'd fancy chances, but with Gareth Southgate, I don't know, like you say, Scotty, he's just cautious, innit? It's whether he can outwit Ronald Koeman, who's, he's got
outwit Ronald Koeman.
I know, he's got his own faults, hasn't he? We'll have to wait and see anyway. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Make sure you are hitting that like button and subscribe if you've not done so already. I'm just going to stick a quick link in there for our patrons. Show a bit of support to the channel if you can by joining our Patreon. There's a link in the chat. A big thank you as well to Surfshark for sponsoring this podcast. That's been Scotty. I've been Motty. This has been a look at England under Gareth Southgate. Thanks for watching.